Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Conversations That Matter under the label of Leadership Craft with Magdalena. My name is Magdalena, and today I am honored and feeling very grateful for having with me for you Anni-Mari De Bruyn, psychologist, couple therapist, and relationship coach. We will be talking about love, relationships, how it has an impact on us, and we do hope Anni-Mari will share with us some tricks how we can do better. Welcome, Anni-Mari, and thank you very much for being here with us.
Hello, and thank you for having me. I'm really grateful as well and honored to be your guest today.
I'm always inspired with people who are working with other people around the relationships. I know from our pre-interview conversation that you also do have experience in the corporate world. How or what make you to decide to go through that transition from the corporate world into this delicate subject as being psychologist and to work with the couples around the relationships?
I think for me, this was basically following my calling, because especially working with couples and working in the sphere of relationships, it's something that's very, very close to my heart. And as someone who has gone through my own journey of understanding and learning about what the healthy relationship looks like and feels like and what it is, and how to maintain relationships with myself and with others, I found it very important to share that message and knowledge with the world. And for me to transition into psychology, it was actually something that I was always interested in. I've always been interested in mental health and understanding ourselves better and what makes people do what they do. And I guess my journey was I guess my journey turned out in a way that I had to get a lot of different life experiences before that I could actually get the education and follow on that path to be able to help others with my knowledge and my education and all of that.
Negative experience are having two ways impact on our life. Either we falling in that hole and unfortunately going into victim role, making people responsible for our damages, disasters, and why we are doing bad in life. And the other way is the negative experiences are giving us drive to learn, to explore, to develop, to become better version of ourselves. Is it
Absolutely
correct hypothesis?
Absolutely, yeah. And of course it varies by person, and for me it was a big revelation and understanding when I realized how much power I have in my life for the relationships I have, for the quality of life I have. And instead of exactly that, instead of blaming others and finding fault in others and taking that victim mentality, I realized that there's actually ways to do better. And I started in a personal development path, and then that led on to relationship therapy and couples therapy and psychology, and I'm also a career counselor. So all of that I always keep learning as well, because that's a field that's always growing, and we discovering new ways to help people as well. So I absolutely enjoy that journey of learning about people, learning what works, how we can help, and And as we know, the whole mental health field, fortunately, now is really expanding and growing, and people are gaining more awareness worldwide about the importance of that. Because if we don't have that, we have.
Mm. You say you were studying the psychology and various other learnings, courses, diplomas you took from the therapy, couple therapies, and relationships. Around the psychology, what did you learn that made an impact on you or maybe brought you to the wake up moment?
That's a very interesting question. I think the wake up moment was actually from my couples therapy training. It was more about understanding that there's tools available, the way we speak, for example, how we can handle conflict. And we don't have to react and behave in the ways that we learned while growing up by like seeing our parents or other caregivers how they were communicating to us and between each other, and we can actually learn to do better.
Yeah. Do you think what's the thing around do better? We know it. And many people will say loud, I know I can do better. Why only little amount of people actually will do better? Why they will take this decision to do the change? And so many people somehow are driven by fear to make a change.
I think that this comes down to the comfort zone, right? It comes down to the safety, because what we know, what is familiar, is always more safe to us than something that we don't know, that is unfamiliar. That's just basic biology as well of human beings, that we feel safe if we know what's happening to us. And change can be very scary because we don't know what's gonna be on the other side. Now things are gonna be different. That is very scary.
Why we like once you are while you are working with various people, you are hearing and learning about their stories with couples or singles that are coming to you for support in terms of building healthy relationships. Why, if they would be all fine, most probably we would not need support from people like yourself. And somehow I correlate that, I connect that with this little faith in us that also is holding us from making a change. Why we do have this little faith?
I think what I've noticed is actually that it's just easier to look outside of ourselves. It's easier to blame others. It's easier to think that it's the circumstances or other people or where you were born or how you were raised, than to actually understand that, you know what, there's actually something I can do. Because realizing that, oh, I have to do something, it takes a lot, it puts a lot of responsibility on yourself, and not everybody is ready to take that responsibility.
Do you think we know how to build relationship?
Yes, absolutely. And that was actually one thing that started my journey towards couples therapy and relationship coaching and all of that, was the research. I stumbled onto the Gottman, Gottman Institute research, which is, I don't know if I think you're familiar with them as well.
Yeah.
So basically, American couple of doctors, and John and Julie Gottman. And I had the privilege to train with them in person in Chicago a few years ago. And when I actually stumbled on their research, so what they've done was that they looked at couples, and they've been studying them for 40 years. But what they have discovered is that there's clear differences between the couples that are happily together for many years, and the couples who either break up or they are unhappily together for many years as well, because some people choose to stay together even when they're clearly unhappy. And so based on that research, they found out the ways how these people communicate to each other, how these couples, how they actually take care of each other, how much time they spend together, how they spend their time, how do they connect with each other. And one of the big things that they realized was as well this what they call the beats for attention. So basically every time you look for attention from your partner, how the beat for connection or beat for attention is received. And I found that very, very interesting.
Recently, I was talking with a couple. It was just informal meeting, and they were telling me many years ago they were going through turbulences in their marriage. They got newborn child, and she was a drive to almost break the whole marriage. And they have been very, very deeply in love with each other. But when they got the baby, she somehow sabotaged the marriage, focused completely on the child, and push away husband. For 3 years, he was sleeping on the couch because she put the priority on the child with whom she was sleeping in their couple bed. They were about to get divorced. Just, let's say, by a magic, he finally, as a final moment, said, listen, either we work it out or we will split, because it cannot be that way. And it took another 2 years for them to work around the barriers that she has created, which eventually led to the fact that she was ashamed of her body, and she was afraid that after giving birth, her body has changed. She hated herself, but she somehow was afraid to tell that loud, because man is man. She had that in her mind, that man is only seeking for the beautiful body. So not only physically she rejected, she didn't allow him to help her around the child, but also mentally she completely rejected him. When she opened herself finally, he said, oh my God, and I was begging that you will look at me. So other way around. And like you say about the communication, it's such a crucial element, still so much underrated.
It is. It's the basis of everything, and the fear of being vulnerable with your partner, right? It's such a big deal, and that's actually the way to connect. That's the key to connection, is actually to become vulnerable and share your biggest fears and insecurities with your partner. And if you have a healthy partner, then that's a safe space, and you can both use this as an opportunity to actually connect and create a connection, and work on maintaining that connection for long term. And that was a great example, because what you have described is quite common, and even this research is showing that I think it was about 70% of couples that are saying that after having a baby, the quality, the relationship satisfaction goes down very strongly, because couples are not prepared how it changes the dynamic of the relationship, and what a big work it is. And of course, like the sleepless nights, that all also puts pressure on the couple, and the communication of the couple as well. And because we all know how we feel when we're cranky, we haven't slept well, and all of that. So there's a lot of different dynamics that come to play in that situation. And I'm really glad to hear that they managed to open up and figure it out. And another thing that the statistics is saying is that it generally takes about 6 years for couples to reach out for couples therapy. And it means that they've been really, really unhappy for a long time before they they reach the couples therapy office. And that's something that I think one of the important things that I'm trying to get the message across is that you don't have to wait until you really hit the rock bottom and you're almost breaking up or you're already broken up to seek a help of a couples therapist. It's actually way more helpful if you, when things are going well, like you start. I know in Hollywood it's becoming more popular to already start couples therapy when you just start dating, how to de-escalate your conflict. That is normal. And because that's another thing, a lot of couples think that, oh, we are fighting, so everything is bad, we're having a fight, so we should break up, or this is not the right person for me. So there's not enough awareness of what a healthy dynamic in relationship looks like, and conflict is totally normal. We just need to learn how to de-escalate the conflict and how to repair after the conflict, so that we can actually use the conflict to our advantage, to use it to better connect with each other and understand each other better.
Recently, on one conferences I have heard, the woman was asking the public. She was talking to a woman, and she asked a woman in the public who wants to become a wife. And most of them raised their hand, and I want to become a wife. She said, if you want to become a wife, the first and most important duty you have is to build a healthy relationship with yourself. To strengthen your moral spine, to define your values, see how far you can live with those values without breaking them, and then eventually allow yourself to go into a relationship. If you are broken and you are just shifting left and right, you will find some flower, but you don't know how to take care of it, because you don't know how to take care of yourself. And I found it very smart advice.
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, it's of course it's crucial to work on yourself and to understand yourself. And if you have things that you need to heal, if you have some past traumas or other issues, that's something that you need to take care of. But I don't think that you need to be completely healed or healthy to get into a relationship, because relationship itself is a very great tool to heal as well. It's because we as humans, we are relational beings, and we all, I think, I don't know if you can relate, but I know I can relate to that, and I know a lot of my clients as well. It's like they come to me and they say like, I'm single. I've like taken time to heal myself, and I've been into therapy, and I've done like yoga and different things, and I feel so good. And now I start dating and I get into this relationship, and all hell breaks loose. Like I don't know what's going on. I start to have these issues and things, and you think like, oh yes, you can do so well when you're all by yourself. But in a relationship place where all these triggers come to play, where all these issues come to light, and when you have a healthy partner, this is actually a really great place for both of you to learn better about yourself, and you learn how to connect and really heal, actually, because you take responsibility for your feelings and for your triggers. You can work on that to, you're not going to blame your partner for creating the triggers for you, because your triggers is your responsibility. But at the same time, you can use that space to connect and understand yourself better and do better.
We get into dating, we get into the relationship, we are creating kind of space for ourselves. And then it's very interesting to see people after 6 months, a year, they don't know each other. Like you say about the triggers, usually the way how people are managing, it's through the argument, which will end the shutting down the door or just silent treatment. not walking through that. It's like, from the psychology, positive listening. And today, especially, we hear quite a lot. People are having the short span of focus. And I see now the connection. We do not listen to hear. Because if you come to me with the problem, I push back. Look at yourself. Don't be egoistic. You only speak about yourself. And what about me in this relationship? This is how too often the conversations are happening, even at the beginning of the relationship. You have said about people are having a traumas, having some experience from the past. What are the most common patterns that people are carrying from their childhood?
I would say I don't know if it's the most common patterns, but I think just having the awareness of attachment style, like how does your attachment style affect how you relate to people and especially your romantic partner. That's a big deal. That just to understand that, like if you get triggered by your partner not answering the phone or not doing things outside of the relationship, having their own life, that can be very triggering to some people, triggering their insecurities and their need for control, and that usually stems from the insecure attachment style. And just to be aware of that and work on that yourself, or the other ones who are the avoidants and who don't get comfortable with closeness and they need space. So just to be able to communicate that need for space is very important. But I think another thing is also just lack of awareness of the normal stages, the evolvement of relationship, that every relationship goes through normal developmental stages. That first you have that infatuation, that you think that the other person is the best thing ever on earth, right? And then you start to differentiate, you start to see them for who they are. And in that stage, oftentimes people think like, oh, they're not who I thought they were, and we're not compatible, and let's just split up. But if you stick around and you actually start to learn the person for who they are, instead of what your first impression was and what you thought they were, you can actually create that deeper level of connection, and so your relationship can develop and get deeper. And like you said, people get together and then a few months in, they don't even know each other. And that's the problem, that people stop learning about each other. They stop talking, they stop asking questions, they just get on with their lives. And that's a big deal of how to stay connected, is that asking questions, staying curious about your partner. Even if you've been together for 20 years, there's still
Right.
things your partner.
It's from the leadership perspective, we are shouting loud. Continuous learning is important, and actually in the relationship, in the personal life, in that connection, this continuous hunger for the continuous learning about the other person should never die. It should be all the time. How do we know if we are in relationship that has potential to be healthy?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because what happens is it comes down to the partners, right? Like it comes down to that both partners need to be healthy enough and willing enough to learn to become healthy and to understand the patterns. Like if you have those toxic patterns, you have these patterns that are dysfunctional. For example, the silent treatment is something that is very unhealthy in relationship. You should be able to always tell your partner that you need space. It's actually very recommended that if things get heated, you take the space, you take some time off, but you need to communicate and say, you know what, I need time off, but I will be back and we will continue. So having that space for communication, and also there is certain rules for relationships actually, and the number one rule is that we look out for each other, both of us. So like you mentioned earlier, like when one person starts to feel like it's me, 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 or like what do I get? As soon as the person starts to look at the relationship as transactional, that's when it also becomes unhealthy. That's a very unhealthy dynamic, because in relationship, when both people are there to give their best and to look out for each other, and you know that your partner got your back, then there is no need to think, don't need to worry about it being transactional or what you get out of it, because both of you have each other's best interest at heart. And I really like that saying from the Gottmans. They say that when you hurt, the world stops and I listen. And that should be the driving force in every relationship. When you hurt, the world stops and I listen. I want to find out, why are you hurting? What can I do to make you feel better?
You mentioned earlier about attention. And this is actually what you are just right now saying. It's to give attention to other person, not to be self-centered. Even if we are just saying, oh, I love you. Hey, babe, I love you. But we don't see the face expression. Maybe there was a difficult day at work or a difficult day at home for mothers who are staying at home while husbands or partners are at work. There are various things. We are lowering that level of attention, and we are focusing on the things that are just in front of us. And I wonder why we don't see, like at the beginning you have mentioned, to remember what connected us, what was the moment of attraction. And suddenly the partners are become like blur, taken for granted. Why do you think it's happening like that? What your clients are saying?
What happens is that people stop connecting. They lose that connection. They lose that appreciation. And for that, I have a really simple exercise that I always recommend to my clients, and that's also from the Gottmans actually.
Can we do it?
Yes. So
Let's do
every
it.
evening, you both of you during the day already, you start with this exercise. You start to pay attention to the things that you appreciate about your partner, and at the end of the day, both of you, each of you, will share 5 appreciations about your partner. So you all the things that you appreciate about your partner, and it kind of reminds them as well what is important for you, and why you're valued, why you're being valued, and it kind of really is the antidote for feeling taken for granted, or
And I believe it also creates a different level of the narrative during the conversation.
Absolutely. Because it reminds you as well every on a daily basis, why did I choose this person? You know, because it's so easy. Yeah, because you're like, it's so easy to say, you know what, as soon as you start to think in your head like, "Ah, I could do better, or someone else was better, or anything like that," that's a very unhealthy dynamic as well, because you're when you start comparing, that's creating that window for betrayal actually as well.
I was reading some research papers and various articles and listening to podcasts where they say the love bombing, it is usually at the beginning of the relationship. It may take 1 month, it will take 6 months. It depends how the relationship is developing. But the love bombing behavior, they are associating with the person who is having the narcissistic traits. What is your take on that?
Well, I'm actually a certified narcissistic treatment, narcissistic, sorry, I couldn't say that.
Great question to the right person. Amazing.
Actually a certified narcissistic abuse treatment clinician as well. So this is something that I have quite, let's say, deep understanding or training. And I would say when it comes to love bombing, there's two two reasons for people to do that. And yes, one of them is because the person has high narcissistic traits, or they have a narcissistic personality disorder. And that's they do that to get you to control you and to get you attached to them, and so that it will be easier for them to manipulate you later. And another way is just, it's also they, I guess they could also be highly narcissistic, but the idea is that that they are doing that to get what they want. So in one case, in this long-term potential, they will do that to lure you in, so to say, and to get you attached to them and get you under their control, so that they will keep you as long as they want you. Another way is to do that to, if they have short-term goal, just to get you to do, usually it's to a short-term, let's say sexual relationship, something like that, that they will do that love bombing, and that also comes together with future faking, which is basically making promises about the future that you would have with them if you started that relationship very quickly and very fast, and they will start telling you already how much they love you very early on, within days, sometimes within weeks, and sometimes it's already on the first date. They will tell you that they see you as the mother of their children, things like that. And the whole idea is to manipulate you into giving them what they want, and then they will disregard you and go and find someone else. But yeah, the idea is that someone who does that, someone who's coming on very strongly, very early on, doesn't have that emotional maturity, because either they do it on purpose, or being unaware of that, and they really feel like that. They really feel so in love already in the second date. That actually is a sign of emotional immaturity, because it takes time to build connection, and it takes time to learn about the person, and really know if you're also compatible, if you are healthy, all of that. So it takes time. A healthy relationship takes time.
Like, we are talking about various aspects, and also how people quickly step back. If something is going wrong, I will not bother myself. Okay, let's call it off, all right? Because it doesn't make sense. And there are too many relationships that are ending very quickly. And okay, there will be indeed a lack of compatibility. Then there is a question. Maybe I shall consider the criteria how I'm choosing my love partner, or the person with whom I am entering the relationship. The work itself, is it actually that we don't know how to do the work?
Yes, absolutely. One of the things we don't know, and another thing is that we have been socialized into thinking that that the true love, the real love, is this massive excitement that you get when you see the person and you feel connected straight away, and everything is perfect, and the person is perfect, and everything is perfect, and that comes, of course, from the fairy tales and the romantic movies and all of that, and so of course we think that we need to have that big bang in the beginning, and it should always stay that way, which is not the reality. This is not how real life works. Real life, real relationships, they go in stages, and they develop in stages, and mature, healthy love is where you actually accept the person for who they are, and really get to know them and get to know yourself through them. And that's how you create the connection and maintain the connection, is through that actually acceptance of another person as well.
So with that acceptance, and the fact you have mentioned, very important in my understanding, things around maturity connected with love bombing. When person is hungry in terms of, having a bad experience, or even coming from childhood where the love is missing, the hunger will be a drive. I want to hear. Then here we are going out with the person, and it can be both man and woman, right? That very quickly there is this flourishing love sharing, and not only about your beauty, but just, bombard you with these positive emotions and words. So a hungry person will be like, oh my God, that's the person I want to die with. We are having our pink glasses because of the hunger. How eventually person who has some elements, broken elements, can avoid these kind of situations, not to get into this relationship?
It's important to first of all, get very, very clear. Like that's where the self-awareness comes in. To get clear about your values. Really actually take the time. I really recommend it, especially if you have traumas from childhood, if you have like there has been abuse and things like that, definitely work on that with a specialist, with a professional who's specializing in that, and work with that, because it's important for you to get that part healed, because to understand the difference, because if you have learned that dynamic of abuse, then it's very likely that you will not recognize the signs. You think this is normal when someone is doing the same to you again, and so it's important to first take care of that, then also understand your own values, what is important for you, and then another thing is how you want to feel in that relationship, and the things that are important for you, besides them being tall and dark and handsome and all that, but actually, or how much money they make, but actually, how do they treat you, how do they treat other people, what is actually their personality, like how, if someone who is moody, for example, or if they're rude to other people. I know this keeps say this is something that's, you hear it everywhere, like, oh, someone who's rude to a waiter is not a good person, but this is actually how it is. You need to pay attention to that. How do they treat people that can do nothing for them? That's usually a very good telltale sign.
Mm-hmm.
How they will treat you when you're not useful for them anymore at the end of the relationship. So you have to pay attention to that. And then, of course, when you work on that self-confidence, self-awareness, and self-love, then you will not accept that. You will learn not to accept that kind of behavior and treatment. When you start to feel like, you know what, I don't feel good in this relationship, I start to realize that I actually feel better when I'm on my own or when I'm with my friends than when I'm with this person. That's a very clear telltale sign that something's not right with this person. There is something unhealthy going on.
Yet, why we keep going? Like you mentioned about observation, observe, have the intention to observe in depth the person behavior, attitude, the mimics. Sometimes people are not able to control the mimics. They will say sweet words, but it doesn't resonate with the way how they are making a facial expression, right? Which we have the attitude to not see that. So with an example of being in a restaurant, we are having a shouting person, we still have this tendency to justify. Yes, from the position of woman, he was right. The order was not served well. He's right. He fights for his rights. We are finding this justification, I don't know, to keep ourselves believing in that fake reality. Why do we do that?
I think there's another way of keeping us safe, right? It's safer to stay in that relationship and to have that. Sometimes it's betraying yourself, right? Betraying yourself and your reality for having that safety of that relationship for whatever reason. And another reason could be also that you're just being manipulated in the way that you cannot even see what's happening. One of the reasons as well is that being in that relationship, it's safer not to acknowledge. And of course, this is not conscious behavior. You're not aware of that you're doing that. It is just keeping that. It's safer to betray yourself and your reality than to confront it, because what will be usually it's scary, that unknown, what will happen. Or another reason as well is because you're being so manipulated that you think that is normal, because of the way your partner is saying that, they mixed up my order and that's why I'm shouting. And you think, yeah, because of the way they make it sound, it really sounds justified to shout on a waiter when they messed up your order.
When we are finding ourselves in this kind of situation or monologue, we are talking to ourselves, I can't live without you. It should be like a bang, wake up call. If you talk to yourself that way, it means you are in a wrong place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why it's important, especially like in everybody in relationship, to also have that independence, to always keep your independence, not to get the partner, in a sense that yes, you're partners and you have your best interest, each other's best interest at heart, but at the same time, you're not fully dependent on the partner, especially when they are behaving in certain ways that you can see that it's not okay.
Self-awareness, being clear with our own life and values, it also can bring this kind of thought. I want you. I do not need you, but I want you. And when we are on that level, I believe our consciousness is on a stronger position and we are more mature and we are faster to recognize wrongdoings to avoid future disappointments. What do you think about my philosophy?
Yeah, and that's where the psychoeducation comes in, that actually understanding and realizing that those signs that you see, that is a sign of an unhealthy person, and it's not going to get better. Usually it gets worse. So it's just to have that awareness, and to have that awareness that you deserve better. You don't deserve to be with someone who's shouting at you or someone else, and you be in an environment where you are being respected and taken care of, and where your pain has been considered, and you're being put first, then yeah, absolutely.
You say you studied the psychology and various other elements, knowledge for the couple therapy and for the relationships. How these three areas, where most probably you will have differently addressed knowledge, are interacting with each other?
Absolutely. Because the psychology gives me the basic understanding of human psychology and why we do what we do, and also the physiological reasons behind our behavior sometimes, like the stress and anxiety and things like that. And then from the couple's perspective, we it helps me understand the dynamics between couples, and then from that, from both of the two that I just mentioned, I bring in the relationship with yourself, with the person, right? Where I do the relationship coaching for individuals, which is basically how do you relate to yourself? What is your awareness, a healthy relationship and relationship dynamics, and also your own relationship history and your childhood history, and all of that. This is all systemic approach.
I am the first. Then a man is appearing in my life. then a child is coming to our world. When the child is coming to the world, suddenly the child takes the first place. Woman somehow is having the attitude of withdrawing her needs, existence, being, and husband is somewhere in the shadow. Is it healthy?
I mean, there's biological reasons for that. For women, there's all these hormones that keep the woman attached to the child. And there, the husband's or the father's job would be actually to support that woman and to actually create that connection between the mother and the child as well. Because what we understand from evolutionary perspective is that the father's job is always more to kind of play with the child, give that playfulness, and then the mother is the one who's usually doing the disciplinary actions and things like that. Mm-hmm. So there's roles for both of them, and they need to support each other. They need to create that dynamic that we are here together now, and without forgetting the couple relationship, not without forgetting who they were before that third little person came into the picture, and to still keep that focus on that, maintaining that connection as well. And that's why Gottman is really recommending always to keep the weekly date nights. It's basically, even when the child is small, to still put the focus back on the relationship. Find a babysitter, take the time to reconnect. And it's so, so important for your child as well to have the example of a healthy, happy family life in terms of the relationship of their parents.
I'm happy that more and more I can hear people, the doctors are saying, you mother are the first. If you don't take care of yourself, that's the first thing you are losing. If you don't take care of the fire in your relationship, you lose. Your child should drink the juice from your love you built with your partner.
I think now there is more and more awareness about the self-care as well, and the understanding that, because there's research that supports that we need to focus on that building that relationship instead of you cannot put it you cannot forget about yourself and put the other people first and think that this is sustainable in the long run. It will not be.
There is recently also quite a lot of talk around being able to express yourself emotionally, to show your vulnerability. What is the quick, with the fast results, let's say, but some quick, good exercise for people, or one that you are practicing with your clients to build that emotional safety?
The first is that safety with yourself. How do you feel in your, like, to have that connection with your body? I do a lot of grounding exercises, just feeling present in your body, taking breaths, putting your feet on the ground, feeling the ground, the support of the ground, support of the chair, and taking deep breaths, and just having that awareness of yourself, that having that safety within your body. Because if you're always living outwards, like we mentioned in the beginning of this talk as well, you lose that connection with yourself. So starting with that connection with yourself. So when you feel safe in your body, you will feel also safer to express the needs from that space.
If we don't have it in the relationship, that we can express ourselves freely, usually it will have an impact on us that will appear as a holding us back. How can we come back?
I guess it starts from the self-awareness, because this is such a normal, common behavior actually. And as children, when we were small children and when we were dependent, for survival from our caregivers, right? Your mother and especially your mother, but your father as well, people who were responsible for keeping you alive. And if they were not treating you well, or if they were neglecting you, and it doesn't have to be always like some extreme thing that happened, it's just when they didn't pay attention to your needs. Because if you start to think that your parent is bad and they're not treating you well because they're a bad person, it's actually a threat to your survival. So now you have internalized that talk. Now you have internalized taking that blame for everything, and also internalized the fear, the feeling of that I'm the one to blame. I deserve that. I deserve to be treated in an uncaring manner because that's what happened to me when I was a child. One of the first things that also we need to start to do is to start to become aware of that self-talk. What are we telling ourselves? Do we understand? You keep telling yourself, I deserve that. I deserve to be treated in this way. And then from that CBT framework, we start to question those beliefs that we have for ourselves. Is this really the reality? Do I really deserve that? Why would I deserve that if nobody else deserves that, right? Who actually deserves to be treated in that manner? Nobody, right? No human deserves to be treated in uncaring manner.
You said CBT. What does it mean? And can you tell us something about that?
No, it's just a cognitive behavioral therapy, which is basically just a way to. There is a lot of exercises that is also readily available online that you can do to change your thinking, so to say, the patterns of thinking that you can look into and see that, okay, we need to learn how to think a little bit differently that is more beneficial for us.
You were also studying the systemic approaches and systemic thinking. When you are saying about building in us the self-awareness, is it something correlated, this systemic thinking? And what does it mean, actually, systemic thinking?
I think the main idea is that we're all interconnected with the family, our environment. We think what we bring from our childhood as well, our parents, everybody that's around us, all our relationships, our environment, and that's all. Let's say you cannot look into something without the other. You have to consider everything. You have to consider this whole environment as a whole, like the system. You have to consider the system and your place in the system as well.
As you have described, I understand, is coming from the impact from the childhood and the environment we grew up, what kind of values we have developed in us, and patterns, right? Patterns of thinking, what I deserve, what I don't deserve, and then eventually justifying uncaring behavior of other people towards us. We speak love. I love you. What does it mean, loving other person?
That is such a good, deep philosophical question, right? But I think if we can make it very simple, it's just caring about the other person's well-being as much as yourself as well. And sometimes in some relationship, it feels like they care about the other person even more, which again is not healthy. But yeah, definitely, it's the feeling of, you know what, I want the best for you. And sometimes that doesn't even mean that I should be in the picture of that's best for you.
I like to see there are couples that are really able to build something beautiful. We see the outcome because they do not speak how they fight for each other under the roof. There will be man who's sacrificing his career so the wife can grow and do what she dreams about, and other way around. And there will be outsiders who will say, oh, she's sitting in the house and he's doing the career, and it's unfair, she should have also right to grow. But there are women who are doing certain decisions for the higher value. And I really admire that, this kind of nice alignment, but we only see the outcome. And too often as outsider, we allow ourselves to judge the couples, yet do not appreciate for their commitment and building the family, because as adults we should all be aware building the family, it's not an easy thing. Like you mentioned, not giving up, building processes, growing together. Even if we are meeting each other at our 30s, if we want to build something, we need to give the space so we can connect on certain level and grow together. Words or actions? What is important, more important for a healthy relationship?
Absolutely, actions, of course. And I really like this. I'm not sure now who said it. I've heard it in different places, but that someone said that the marriage is rebuilt every morning, right? Every day you rebuild your marriage. So every day is another chance to make it better. And that's how these couples who make it successfully, who are happy and supporting each other, they reinvent their relationship over the years many times. They decide to do it together. They like you said, they make the effort to stay connected and to support each other's dreams, because that's another very important thing, is to support each other's dreams and talk about your dreams first, of course, so that you both know which each other's dreams are, and then both of you can support each other. And that's the beauty of a successful marriage.
We are dating, we are building the relationship, we speak about dreams. Not necessarily we agreeing, but we are not saying that loud, because we may lose. We are afraid of lose, so we don't criticize or we don't disagree. When we get together into a serious relationship or getting married, then quite often it's something bigger happening. I thought he will change. I thought she will change. Yeah, he told me he doesn't want to have kids, but I thought after we will get married, he will change the mind. And then, okay, but did you speak about changing minds? Where did that expectations come from? And then the whole drama is starting of crushing the relationship. Have you experienced that with your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. And that comes from the fact that people just get together. There is some spark, there's some chemistry, there is some attraction, and then they just automatically get into a relationship, and they never speak about their aspirations. They don't speak about their values. They never have these conversations about what is important for them in a relationship. What kind of relationship do they want? What is important for them in life? Yeah, sometimes they will have some talk, but they don't really come to agreements. They don't have that understanding. And sometimes I ask them, so have you even spoken about these things? And they're like, no, it's not very common actually to speak about these things. And I recommend always to my clients and everybody to talk about these things very early on, straight away, when you're in this dating phase, when you're meeting people. Understand if your values are aligned, if your goals are aligned, and don't, and like we talked about in the beginning about acceptance, like take people for who they are, not what they what you want them to be, not for the potential, but who they are, and especially how they show up, their actions. Yes, they can promise you that I don't know, like let's say sometimes they have really big dreams and they want to become a millionaire and they make a lot of money, they kind of build 100 businesses, but today they're unemployed. They never held a job in their life. They haven't done anything. So you need to look at the action. Yes, they can give you these beautiful dreams, but is there actions that are supporting those dreams? Is there actions that are actually showing you that they're able to reach any of those promises that they make as well for themselves and others?
People are getting into long-term relationships. Let's take, for example, we are 3 years together. We are living together, we are partying together, having some good holidays. And this is all what we have. Is this growing relationship if we do not have build up together over 3 years, but having, they call it stable relationship. That's also very interesting. It's a stable relationship, yet you don't have nothing common.
Yeah, that's I mean, how do both partners feel about it? That's the question. If both of them are happy with this the way it is, it's a kind of it's a safe relationship, because none of them is actually contributing too much. None of them is actually being really vulnerable to to so in case that it doesn't work, they're both very free to just say goodbye, and even if it happens tomorrow, it's so there's no damage done, right? It's a way that, in a way, that is a safe relationship, but at the same time there's no depth. I'm pretty sure that there is not enough depth for that relationship to develop deeper, unless they actually have that talk and discuss is if there's going to be any future and what is going to be the steps. But for some people, that's okay. They want to have that surface level relationship. They want to have that there's someone there. But at some point in life, usually one of the person is going to start to not be so happy about that, because it's normal for a relationship to evolve in time and progress, and that's a sign of life, right? Progress is a sign of life. We need things to evolve in certain way, and most people are not happy in something that's always the same, in a very stagnant space. And sometimes it's the thing here as well, that one of the person has already made the sacrifice to agree to that relationship, even though they don't really want that, in fears of losing the other person, or because what happens in relationship often is as well is that one person is just, let's say, a little bit more people pleasing. They're more scared of sharing their own needs. Maybe they don't even know. Oftentimes people don't even know their own needs. They don't even know what they want or who they are. And they're just used to spend their whole life always attending to others' needs and just showing up for others. But unfortunately, in that situation as well, that person will start to feel resentment at some point, because even if they're not really sure what they want, at some point they start to feel like, you know what, I'm not getting what I want.
From your work you do around, in my understanding, extremely important subject, because indeed we need that. On the individual level, we need that support. We need the wisdom from people like yourself, which each of them relationship, my individual needs, it will have an impact on my mental health and my growth, even my career, how I show up in front of my friends, how I show up in front of my employees, or my teammates. What is right now the critical element, subject around the mental health that we should be aware and start learning more to be content in life, to be happy in life?
That's another very good question. I think, even though it's again, it sounds like a cliche thing, but really that issue of self-care. How do you take care of yourself, your own cup? How do you, what is actually helping you to show up as your best self? Like taking the time, what is it that actually gives you the energy? to show up and be there for others, be there for yourself.
There are people who cannot be alone. And from relationship to relationship, they will be suffer. I don't believe they are happy. That is their conscious choice. I believe there is some gap inside and they don't know how to find the answers. That's why they need someone. What they can do to find their answers.
That starts, we go back to that same thing that I was talking about earlier, about just being comfortable with yourself, actually learning to be with yourself, learning to sit with yourself, learning to understand yourself as well, just having that connection with your body, between your body and your mind and your whole being. And if you notice with this type of people, usually they also are not comfortable with silence, they're not comfortable with just sitting. They because it can be scary for whatever reasons, whatever they picked up from their childhood, that it's not safe to be alone, it's not safe to be on your own, and it's usually it's not like they are aware of that. Of course, it's not that they say like, oh, it's scary to be alone, but it's just the comfortable, like it's not comfortable, right? It's more comfortable to have someone else in your presence than to be by yourself. And I've seen that a lot. And one of the biggest things that we can learn from that is actually to sit with discomfort, to actually learn how to be with things that are not comfortable, to learn to tolerate the discomfort, to tolerate the distress. And only then, if you sit with that, it will get better. And only then you learn to actually get to know yourself as well. You take the time.
It brings to my mind the word resilience. When we are building this kind of bricks of power, like self-care, self-awareness, practice around that, and when the things are coming unexpected, how are we managing this? What kind of chemical, action is happening in us? And this level of resilience that we feel in peace. We are not triggered to be angry. And it is somehow leading to what you have said earlier, accepting others as they are and see the beauty in them through the way how they are, not through own expectations and through own desires. What will be, before we will finish this wonderful conversation, and definitely there is lots of to think about, what will be your message to individual people who are single today and they just want to enter into relationship with the healthy manners?
I think it was great that you touched on that, accepting others, because as important as it is to accept others, it's also so important to accept yourself for the way you are. And of course, it doesn't mean that you just say like, okay, it's just the way I am, and you do whatever you want and treat others not in a respectful manner or whatever, like, not treating others well, but understanding that I understanding that I can accept myself while I can work on the things that need to be worked on, but at the same time, not being too harsh on yourself, and at the same time having that integrity and respect to treat others the way you wish to be treated. I think that's such a crucial thing, which unfortunately nowadays in that kind of like the social media self-care theme, you can see that oftentimes it's just like, just take me as I am, or like, if they don't treat me this way, then I just walk away. And there's like kind of acceptance of ghosting other people as well, which is they don't.
Yeah, the norms of interactions with others indeed are changing, and I would even say they are lowered right now.
And you shouldn't really. I think you should always have integrity for yourself and for others as well, the way you treat yourself and the way you treat others. And but for someone who is looking to get into a relationship that is single, then definitely I recommend to take a look inside and look at the things that need to be healed. Like, I have this really great resource that I always recommend, is this doing like a relationship autopsy, basically going over your past relationships and understanding what went wrong, like what was your fault in that, what was your partner's fault, and what is the common denominator, and what is the common issues that have came up in different relationship over time, and then basically work on these things, and then also become really really clear about the type of partner and relationship you want. And here we don't talk about, like I mentioned, we don't talk about physical attributes or how much money they're making, which is also
Mm.
important. Mostly what kind of person they are, what kind of relationships do they have with their parents, their family, mm, and and how do they show up, what how do you feel on a daily basis, like getting very clear with this type of things. And then when you see the signs that this person that you started to date and you start to get interested in are lacking those important features, then you have to have the courage to walk away and say thank you very much. Also, don't ghost.
Yes, don't ghost. That's the important thing. Message for couples that are struggling, that are losing the grip and the fire. What will be your message?
Focus on the remembering, why did you get together? What was the reason why you two decided to start this relationship? Start building on that list of appreciations for each other on a daily basis, and the date nights. And for the date nights, like I said, it doesn't have to be a fancy dinner. It can be just uninterrupted time for yourself, where you don't talk about your relationship, you don't talk about your family, you don't talk about anything else but each other, like you did in the beginning of the relationship. So basically, do the things you did in the very beginning of the relationship, and see how things will change.
There is a fire on the at the beginning, and then there is no need. Let me run in this lousy blouse and dirty, messy. You need to accept me the way how I am. But I fell in love with that person 3 years ago. Just because I am a husband or wife, why you think you can be different? I mean, it's amazing when we have that comfort and safety. But can you show up for me from time to time, please? Right? Why are we losing that?
Yeah, there is definitely the comfort, and then I think it's also socialization. Like, we see what others are doing and we don't know any better. So once we now we're getting more and more awareness of that. Because if you see, there is actually couples that don't even know anything about this research, and they've been doing that for years before, right? They've been actually taking care of each other and prioritizing each other. The couples that have been married for 60 years, 70 years now, nobody told them how to do it. They just did it, maybe instinctively, I don't know. And so it's not like it's a new information, but sometimes it feels like just having that awareness, now having that psychoeducation, understanding that, you know what, if we actually do these things, there's research that supports that if we keep doing these things, we can actually make it last. We can actually stay happily married forever.
Very,
Even when
very beautiful. Very beautiful. And I will say the way how you feel about yourself, the way how you feel about the relationship is not their responsibility. It means there is a work you should do around. The relation number one is you, like you say, like our guest is saying, Anni-Mari, self-care, self-awareness, and then do the things right and take care of other person needs. It is not weakness. I believe it's a strength. When we show attention to other person, doesn't make us weak. But before that, make sure that you are in a healthy relationship. Anni-Mari, thank you very much for today. It was really brilliant conversation. And I invite you, dear audience, to share your stories, share your to share your tricks, how to make healthy, happy relationship, how to build your self-esteem, how to be strong individual, and let's inspire each other. All the best to you, Anni-Mari, and I hope we will again have the opportunity to talk more about this kind of beautiful subject. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the invitation. And I'm really happy that we had this chance to chat a little bit, and hopefully we can do it again in the future.